I will call to order the Finance Committee meeting of Monday, March 7th, 2022, and ask Dave to please call the roll.
Council President DeBoss,
Present.
Alder Carter,
Present.
Alder Verveer,
Here.
Alder Furman,
Present.
Figueroa Cole, Alder Curry,
Here.
Mayor, you have quorum.
Dave, I think Alder Figueroa Cole is here.
Okay.
All right. Can I have we see you, Alder Figueroa Cole?
I'm sorry, guys. I was in a neighborhood meeting. I'm going to have to log in from my phone. The camera is not working.
Okay.
So I'll be back in a second.
Can we have the meeting instructions while we're waiting?
Absolutely. All right, welcome to our virtual meeting. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Members of the committee, if you're able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you're able, please activate your video when you're speaking. In this meeting, panelists have the ability to mute and unmute themselves. Panelists also have the ability to add pronouns after their names if they choose. Please do not alter the current naming convention. Simply add text after your name. Please use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak, as questions or request a roll call vote. Staff, please use the raise hand feature when you're asked a question. The chair will do their best to call on committee members in the order in which hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. We do not have any members of the public registered to speak, so Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You are correct. We have no registrants for public comment. Are there any disclosures or recusals on today's agenda? President Abbas.
Yes, Madam Mayor, can I please recuse from agenda item number 5, legislative file number 70222?
We'll note you as recusing from that item. Alder Curry.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a disclosure, but I just read Christine's email and it was on those 3 items. Should I just wait for when they are appearing in the next Finance Committee?
Yeah, I think referral is non-controversial, hopefully. Okay. So just when they come back up.
Okay.
Thank you, Alder. Any other disclosures or recusals? All right. Seeing none, then on to the consent agenda. And the only note that I have is the one that Alder Curry just referred to, which is that items 8, 9, and 10, the recommended motion is to refer to the 4/11 Finance Committee meeting. Are there any other notes or exclusions from the consent agenda for today's meeting? Alder Abbas.
Yes, Madam Mayor, can we please exclude agenda item number 3?
Item 3.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other exclusions from the consent agenda? Alder Furman?
I'm sorry, did you mention that we're going to exclude 13 and 14 or?
Oh, no, you're correct. 13 and 14 will be excluded.
I'm indifferent on 14. There's a nice presentation though, so staff probably wants to give that.
Thank you, Alder. Any other exclusions? All right, so at this point, we will have items 3, 13, and 14 excluded from the consent agenda, and note that items 8, 9, and 10 will be referred to our 4/11 meeting. Alder Abbas, a motion, please.
Move motion to approve consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor of the consent agenda? Seeing no objection, we'll record that note, that vote, and we'll go to item 3, which is Legistar 70083, a substitute authorizing acceptance or application to and acceptance of Wisconsin DNR grant for green infrastructure installation. Can we have a motion, please, on item 3?
Move motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's moved and seconded. Questions for staff on item 3?
Yes,
Alder
Madam.
Abbas?
Yes, thank you very much. I have one brief question. I was looking into a resolution. I'm curious to know what type of green infrastructure they are installing for that amount of cost, and what does that include from engineering department?
Yes, so Janet Schmidt is here to talk about that. Janet?
Great, thank you. If you're, I'm not sure if you're all familiar, but the engineering division, we partnered with the USGS, and there's a green infrastructure pilot area that we're studying over by the Westmoreland neighborhood. So that's just a little bit north of Glenway Golf Course, so kind of in that area. And what they're doing with the study is we're partnering with them, and they have a paired study area. So we're trying to put as much green infrastructure into our study area, and then they have a paired region that they're going to use to compare like the results. So in this study area already, we put green infrastructure, which is include permeable pavement, the paved drain blocks. We've put in stormwater, rain garden, stormwater treatment in the terraces. We've put in some permeable sidewalk and rock cribs. That was done, I think, 2 years ago now. We have another street project where we're proposing to put in more permeable pavement. And then we're partnering with the Friends of Lake Wingra, who are going to help us kind of go out and target individual property owners to see if they can put, see how much rain gardens we can get them to install in the pilot area. So the idea is within 5 years to put as much as we can in these areas, so we can see the benefits, or identify things that may not be of benefit, such as increased pollutant loading and whatnot. So they'll study that area with all the increased infiltration versus the other one. So what this money would help us do is it'd help offset some of the costs that we're seeing for when we want to put in the pervious pavement and more rock cribs, permeable sidewalk and whatnot. So that could go as a direct offset for the cost with the street project. There's a Karen Meyer and Keating street project that's moving forward right now, and it has some of that infrastructure in there. So this would be a match. So we wanted to see if we could get that dollar amount, and then we would continue to install more things. Maybe it'd be more rain gardens, or probably more permeable sidewalk within the area to try and get as much as we can get in there.
So Janet, couple of questions. So this particular grant and match, did resident also need to have some sort of commitment or put some money down in case if you're putting a rain garden or commercial building?
We're kind of, so for this area in particular, because we want to get as much in as we can, we've given people a break on the cost for the rain gardens. It's only like $100 if people want to install it in their terrace, which is pretty cheap. And so it's not necessarily required that the property owners partner with us. Some of this could be, if we identify more areas that we think we could put permeable pavement in, that wouldn't be a cost to the property owners at all. So these would be public improvements, and we've kind of already flagged them in our budget for stuff like that. This would just help offset those costs.
And also after this particular project, are you guys also going to expand this to other part of the districts in the city, which is next to the lake?
Yeah, that's the hope. So what we want to do is we want to get the findings from the project, see kind of like have some real quantifiable documented data on this. So like, how do these improvements in particular, and we kind of have like a set of improvements which were done in 1 year, and then we have another set of improvements, and then we can kind of see the change in the data. So kind of like what's the best bang for our buck when we start looking at this. And then then, they wanted to also study things like introduction of extra chlorine and chloride into the system. So like making sure that we're not, putting all these improvements in, especially like pervious pavement, and then realizing it could actually have some detriment that we didn't understand. I don't really foresee that, but we've also, they wanted to do that analysis as well. So if the pilot goes well, and depending on what we find, USGS will take that information, write up a report and some findings, and we'll use that to kind of determine our next steps for how we want to spread this out through the city.
And when will this pilot concluded? When it will be finished?
It's a 5-year study, and I think we're in year 3 of it. So we have at least 2 more years to go. So we have this construction season and hopefully one more construction season where we can get a big project in, and then they'll start wrapping it up and writing their conclusions.
Janet, can you also share data with me or perhaps with finance committee member, whatever data? It would be great too.
Yeah, certainly. Once they're all done, I think that'd be something that'd be really useful for everybody to see. So I'd be happy to share that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alder Carter?
Yeah, Janet, wasn't the rain gardens on the terrace tried in another section of Madison? I recall this project has happened before. Do you know if I'm correct?
So we do offer terrace rain gardens and the other projects. So any street project, if there's an area that's actually fits that criteria, it has to be a certain terrace width and on a certain slope. You can't really have it on steep slopes. So we offer those with regular street projects. But with this pilot area, we're offering a little bit more incentive to try and get as many of these in as we can, and we're working with, again, like the Friends of Lake Ringer, and doing actually like some really specific targeting of these areas and trying to, market it a little bit more to try and get as much in as we can.
And then for the Westmoreland area, is that between Speedway, Midvale, and Tokay, that area?
Yeah, it's kind of over there. It's I would say it's over by Glenway Golf Course, just north of that, over by Topher, Euclid, St. Clair, that area. If you're familiar with that.
Yep.
So that's yeah. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alder. Any other questions for Janet? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor? Seeing no objection, we'll record a unanimous vote in favor of item 3. And then we will go on to item 13, which is Legistar 70352, discussion on the meeting format for the 2022 Finance Committee meetings. I'm not sure we need a motion yet since we're in discussion. So let's start there. Is there discussion on our meeting format for the rest of 2022? Alder Furman.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think we have any IT staff that can speak of the hybrid plans with us. I don't know if our host wanted to do that, but I think that would be
I don't think so. Yeah.
My big suggestion is that I think they are pretty close to hybrid. I think we're talking probably May. This meeting does have a lot of staff, especially that has to participate, and so I think because we're so close to hybrid, I'd like to see us wait for that. That's my opinion, especially if that's just coming around the corner in May. I think there's obviously a lot of.
So Alder, I can actually speak to that. The technology may be installed in May, but that does not mean that we are ready to go to hybrid meetings in May.
Okay.
We haven't had any conversation about the policy changes that might be necessary to accommodate hybrid meetings or the procedures, or when all IT is dealing with is the technology, and nothing else has happened to move us toward hybrid meetings. So I would not anticipate that we would be ready in May to start having multiple hybrid meetings.
Okay, well, I hope we can start those discussions, obviously, as soon as possible. There's a lot of value to be able to do hybrid. Thank you.
Alder Abbas?
Yes, Madam, and thank you very much for clarifying that. Of course, the room will be ready. I highly encourage us to meet in person. I think so. It's really crucial for us to see the new staff. A lot of new staff members, we haven't met them. A lot of staff members still work in the city county building as well as municipality building, and they can also attend in person. And I understand the value of hybrid, and I agree with my colleague. Hybrid is a path forward in the absence of that, and it's going to take some time, some operating cost and other stuff. Until then, I think so it's crucial for us to see each other. I got the flavor of in-person meeting for chief of staff hiring process, and it was really incredible to meet with colleague and learn about each other. Just want to share. I learned more about Alder Heck can do push-up upside down. So on a serious note, I think so it's really crucial to learn each other and create that fellowship and partnership. So I will highly encourage us to come back in person, and this mask mandate is over now. We could still take precautions, as some of us have old parents and kids who are not vaccinated. Like my both kids are not vaccinated yet, but I think so it have a lot of value to be in person. So I will really like to see that happening, coming us back.
Thank you, Alder Curry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm embarrassed to say this on a recording, but I am digging my way out of my email. So if I missed something, please help. In terms of hybrid, in person, or all virtual, how does that line up with the requirement for alders to be vaccinated? Is there like guidance yet with the mask mandate being out for city buildings?
So it's a perfectly legitimate question, Alder. I don't think that your email would inform you. We currently are not requiring masks in city buildings except for CCB. So city county building, the county is requiring masks in common spaces. This for city buildings, we're asking our staff to be courteous, and if somebody else is wearing a mask, to put on their own mask. In practice, I think many people in meetings are wearing masks, and we could certainly again, this is sort of speaking to the policy work that hasn't been done yet. We could develop a policy around requiring masks for committee meetings. That is certainly a possibility. I don't know the status of the vaccination requirement for council members. I just haven't heard an update on that. President Abbas may be able to speak to that. But I think we are still at approximately 93% of city staff being vaccinated, and something just short of 50% we know that they're boosted. I think the number is a lot higher than that. We just haven't required that reporting. So it's at this point voluntary. President Abbas, did you want to speak to the vaccination question?
Yeah, so we adopted an APM about the vaccination. We as a council adopted it, and in that all the alders sent their information to Matlin about their vaccination status, unless there is a religious reasons to not have. So that's all set. Having said that, with vaccination policies already in place, Alder, but regarding face mask, if we as a body decide to move forward, we can create a policy, either council leadership, about in-person meeting attendance. As the mayor mentioned, we could all be a mask. I do remember when we were thinking about bringing council in person, we also look into the room design, how the room design will interact, keeping a safe space. Regardless, we are all vaccinated. We still want to take all the precautions and making sure everybody feel welcome and comfortable. So those are the things, if this committee, I believe, and Madam Mayor can speak more to that, if we decide to move forward, I think so we could make those accommodations, if I'm not wrong.
Alder Carter?
I was just gonna say that if we do decide to go in person, if it could line up with what we have on the schedule for the council meeting, I think it's the end of May. Am I right on that, Mayor? That we're doing virtual and then we would be hopefully in person.
The council has not voted yet to come back in person. We have
Oh, we
meeting
just-
dates through the end of May that
Okay,
we've
that's what it
affirmed
is.
as virtual,
Okay,
but that could change at your next meeting.
yeah, and I was just thinking that it could line up with that. Thank you.
Alder Figueroa Cole? You're muted, Alder.
Thank you. So at this point, I mean, I'm okay either way, except that if we go in person this month, I'm probably early next month, I will have to be absent for a couple of the meetings. So I would appreciate consideration to perhaps align with the council that the decision, to be made back in May, to start in May or whatever. I mean, right now I'm still out of town and I'm planning on heading back home in the next week or so, but it's still up in the air.
Thank
So
you,
I would
Alder.
appreciate consideration in that regard.
So, Alder Boss,
I was gonna do a motion.
do you object to me adding a little more information first?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Alder. I just want to be realistic about what I think options look like going forward. So, obviously we're meeting virtually. We could continue to do that. We could go back to fully in person. As we've already talked about, I think that there's probably some accommodations that we'd want to make regarding what room we're in and, how that room is set up. And, we may want to adopt a mask requirement for our meetings, et cetera. So those would be things that we would have to work through. I think they're workable. In terms of, realistically around a hybrid option, and we would need to talk with the folks in IT that are working on this, but my understanding is that even a hybrid option probably means that all members of the body are present in person. I don't know that IT has figured out a way for some of us to be virtual and some of us to be in person. I think the real focus of the hybrid option work so far has been allowing the public to comment either in person or virtually. And so I just want to level set around that. I'm not saying that it's impossible for us to get to a split committee at some point. I just don't think that's been IT's priority in the first place. I think their priority has been around the public comment and registrations. So I just, we can get an update on that. But I think I just want to level set around that. President Abbas?
Yep, I would like to do a motion for the Finance Committee to come back in person on May 10th.
There a second?
Second,
All right, so the motion on the floor is for Finance to return fully in person starting at our May 10th meeting. Alder, can I take that to mean through the rest of the year?
Mayor,
Okay. Dave?
the Finance Committee will meet in May on the 16th. You're aware of that.
Sorry, I was thinking council, so.
It's 16th.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
All right, so the assuming that's friendly to the body, the motion is to come back in person as of the May 16th Finance Committee meeting. Their discussion? Alder Carter?
My only discussion on this is to ensure that the room will be set up accordingly.
Can you
For
say a
safe-
little bit more, Alder? You're looking for space between members?
Yep. Safe space between committee members and presenters. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you, Alder Verveer.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it would personally make the most sense if the Finance Committee paralleled the decision made by the Common Council as to our future meeting format. So I think it would be confusing to the community if our committee starts meeting in person in May, but the Common Council might decide to not meet in person, say until Labor Day. Again, I'm just making this up, the meeting the day after Labor Day. So I do not plan on supporting this specific motion. I again think my main concern is that our decision and our meetings be concurrent with the Common Council's decision on meeting in person, virtually or hybrid. I'll also just make an observation. I haven't had the opportunity to have many in-person meetings at all during the pandemic, but I did have a gentleman that was not comfortable with technology and wanted to meet in person. So we met in person last week at the Common Council office. And you know better than I, Mayor, since you're in the office, I think most every day, but it was like a ghost town in the city county building. So I bring that up to just remind my colleagues of the point made by Alder Furman that this Finance Committee is a very city staff heavy attended meeting. And I think we would be doing a disservice to city staff to ask that they come down to the municipal building or the city county building when it's highly likely that their items very well could be on the consent agenda. For example, our meeting today will most certainly not last more than 1 hour. Because in my meetings with city staff throughout the pandemic, including as recently as last week, almost all the city staff seems to still be working from home. I mean, I wonder, for example, not to single them out, but if our wonderful budget policy analysts that faithfully attend each of these Finance Committee meetings are still working mostly remotely from home or not. Anyway, to me, the main decision should be made by the full council, not just the 6 of us that serve on this committee. So for those reasons, I do not plan to support this motion as made. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. And just for everybody's information, about 60% of our staff have been working in person this entire time. The other 40% that are able to telework are now or should be now on individual telework plans, coming into the office at least 2 days a week. And many are in more frequently than that. So I do think we're starting to see a lot more people in person. I'd also note that, potentially staff can continue to do what they've always done, which is watch on the award-winning Cine channel and pop down from their offices when they're needed. But just for your information, I do think that many more staff are starting to come back in person. Alder Carter.
I forgot to put my hand down.
Okay. Alder Figueroa call.
Yes, so with the comment that you made earlier, Mayor, about assuming that we're going to the end of the year. So is this going to be, are we going to continue what we started with the pandemic where we can change every so often, or are we going to go in a permanent way in whichever direction.
So the intention is for committees to adopt a standard of what they're doing. And then certainly at any one of our meetings, we could vote to hold subsequent meetings in a different format. That's always an option. I think that just for people's expectation, it's good to adopt the default, and then have a switch from that be a special thing. So
Thank you.
if you're asking, could we in the future go back to virtual meetings? The answer is yes, we could.
I mean, because we should be basing that on participation. So if that drops, we should then reconsider to go back to whatever we get the most participation from the public. That's just what I was thinking. But anyhow, thank you.
Thank you, Alder. It's very anecdotal, but I'm not sure that we've seen substantially different levels of participation based on format.
All right.
Alder Furman?
Thank you, Mayor. I too, I'm not going to support this, but I will say I really did appreciate being back in person for the Chief of Staff interviews. That was, well handled, and I do look forward to us being back in person. I just think that hybrid is incredibly important to implement. I think there's a chance we will be back meeting in May. So I think by not voting for this, I'm not precluding being open to meeting back in May. But I do think we need to figure out what the policies are surrounding that as soon as possible and make it not just for the public, but for staff and committee members, if necessary, to be able to participate virtually, to take advantage of the power of this format. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. I will note that it's also possible either to refer the item for discussion after the next council meeting, or to bring up this item again after the next council meeting. It certainly doesn't have to be the last time that we talk about it. Alder Figueroa Cole?
So on that note, if President Abbas doesn't mind, can I make that friendly amendment to his motion to just refer and discuss it again on the upcoming one?
Alder, there's no such thing as a friendly amendment.
Well,
you can make a substitute motion.
okay, so can I make a substitute motion? I mean, again, I don't know. I wondering if he wants to amend his, or should I just make the motion? I don't want to make it too much work, too trouble. So
Go. I think you're getting the thumbs up, Alder.
Okay, so hold on for a second. I think I'm trying to kill my own father here. Is that bad? Hold on. Sorry, guys. I am not being a very good nurse. So I like to make an amendment I like to refer the item so we can discuss after council, if that's okay with you guys.
Somebody have Dave, when's our next finance meeting, and is it after our next council meeting?
Yeah, should be.
I believe it is, yes.
These 2 months of schedule are really wonky, which is why I checked.
The next meeting is May 21st. So if you have March 21st. If you have a March 15th meeting, then it will be after. If not, then it will not be. The meeting after that is April 11th.
Can I suggest some small? So I second the motion. I think so. If we can do April 11th, I'm not sure March 15th meeting of Common Council going to happen. I'm not sure yet. We have quorum problems, so April.
So
11th.
we have yeah, you're right. That might be most prudent.
Yeah, so April 11th
Okay.
is the next finance.
Yeah, whatever works.
All right, so I'm going to take the motion as moved by Figueroa Cole and seconded by Abbas.
Yep.
To refer this item to the April 11th Finance Committee meeting. Everybody's good with that?
I'm okay with that.
So that's the substitute motion on the floor. Refer to the April 11th Finance Committee meeting. Is there any further discussion? Is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor of referral? Seeing no objection, Alder Figueroa, your hand is still up. All right, so that item is referred. Thank you all. And that takes us to item 14, which is Legistar 70353, an overview of the 2023 budget calendar. And since Christine just turned her video on, I expect that I will hand this to Christine.
Good evening, everyone. Christine Coe, Budget Manager in the city's Finance Department. I'm going to share a few quick slides to outline the 2023 budget process. As you all know, we have an annual capital and operating budget that begins January 1st and goes through December 31st. And although it feels like we just passed the 22 budget, we are already planning for 2023. Our first key date, this table outlines key deadlines by the capital and operating phases. So the first key date will be in just 3 weeks. We'll have the capital kickoff with agencies and the finance department on Tuesday, March 22nd. Agencies will have 5 weeks to complete their proposals and will submit on April 22nd. And there will be a series of briefing meetings with the mayor's office in May. And the executive budget will be introduced to the Common Council on September 6th with finance committee briefings in mid-September and amendments at the end of September. On the other side, we have the operating deadlines. The operating budget will kick off June 21st. Agencies again will have 5 weeks to submit their requests, which will go through July 22nd. Agency briefings for the operating budget will take place in mid-August, with the executive budget introduced in mid-October. And then similarly, there will be 2 evenings of finance committee briefings and a week for amendments. The executive budgets, as amended by the finance committee, will go back to the Common Council, which will have an opportunity to amend the budget in early November, and the Common Council budget adoption meetings will be November 15th through 17th. So zooming in on the Finance Committee and Common Council process a little closer, this is just a more detailed timeline for those last few steps of the process. For both capital and operating, the amendment process will follow a similar timeline, but will be staggered by about a month. So the first step is for the mayor to introduce the executive budget to the Common Council. For capital, again, that's September 6th, and for operating, that'll be October 11th. There will be, again, 2 nights of finance committee hearings, and then there will be 1 week for the finance committee members to submit amendments to the executive budget. For capital, that will be September 19th through the 23rd, and for operating, that will be October 24th through the 28th. Similar to this past year, we will ask alders to submit all of their proposed ideas by the Wednesday of that week, so we have time to complete any analysis and follow-up needed, and we'll publish the proposed amendments by that Friday. And then the following Monday, the Finance Committee will meet again to vote on their amendments. After the Finance Committee votes, the Common Council will have the opportunity to propose amendments that will take place over the course of the first week of November, with alders submitting by the Wednesday of the first week of November and having amendments published by that Friday. And then we'll have up to 3 meetings to adopt the budget. So this table has a couple of key highlights comparing our process for this year to last year. So for both the capital and operating budget, agencies are going to submit their requests and transmittal memos through an internal SharePoint site, and the budget team will be publishing all of the materials, including the kickoff instructions and agency requests, to cityofmadison.com/budget. If you go to that website right now, it still has all of our 22 dates, but we will be updating that in the next month or so. On the capital side, cross-agency management team members will review and evaluate proposals and provide recommendations to the mayor's office, which will be considered in addition to information provided at the briefings, and that will be one of the inputs provided for the executive budget. And on the operating side, we are still determining the process for requesting reduction scenarios or supplemental requests from agencies. And we'll have more information about that shortly over the next few weeks or months. In terms of what's new or different, for both the capital and operating budgets, we are working closely with the Department of Civil Rights to refine the racial equity and social justice questions. Last year was the first time we introduced this section in the budget forums, and we've worked with the RESJI strategy team and with staff across departments to really refine and hone these questions so that the council and public gets more information from them. So you'll be seeing slightly modified questions when the requests are published in a few months. And on the capital side, we also included new questions on sustainability and climate resilience, as well as operating impacts to provide a more holistic picture about the impact of specific projects and programs. So something you may have noticed on the calendar is that we are starting capital a little bit earlier and moving operating a little bit later, but we are still actively planning for the operating budget. In terms of planning, the budget team is working on completing year-end analyses as well as cost to continue planning to see how much it will cost to provide the same level of services, as well as developing the cost allocation plan, fleet rate, and long-range projection model, which all inform the operating budget. We are also working on restarting Results Madison to re-engage agencies on their service, on their services, and also start the conversation around outcomes-based budgeting and identifying performance measures. Results Madison is a long-term plan that will take over 2 to 3 years to implement, but these conversations are ongoing. It's a project that was paused mostly due to COVID over the past few years. In addition to the planning work that we're doing, we are also starting to gear up for a lot of trainings and info sessions, both with agency staff as well as the council and finance committee. Dave and I have been starting to plan out a series of trainings and info sessions focused on the current budget situation and structural deficit. We'll also be providing some trainings around how to interpret budget data and how to read the agency requests effectively. Later in the summer and early fall, we'll provide more detailed sessions specifically around the budget and amendment process to help make that make those process steps as clear as possible for all alders. And we'll also be doing some listening sessions to understand council priorities, and also are volunteering ourselves to participate in any community meetings you might have. I know we presented at 2 last year, but we are open and available to work with you on how we can better communicate the budget to the public. So with that, I'm open to any questions, and we'll be providing a lot more information in the weeks to come.
Thank you, Christine. Questions, Alder Figueroa?
I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment to Christine and Dave. I mean, I know Christine was new and she got kind of like to learn about the city in this season and this new budget season. So did we, the new alders, and I just want to thank her immensely for all the work that she put on all the patients and answering all my questions and providing the data and Excel spreadsheets and pivot tables. So as you know, I mean, I like to dig into data, and she made it extremely easy for me. So I'm excited to hear that is going to be extended somehow to the rest of the council to have sessions for them to be more engaged. So I'm looking forward to those and to learn more, but definitely very grateful for the support that I got on this last season. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank you, Christine, and we'll look forward to further engagement and to each of the steps along the way. All right, that's it for items on our agenda. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move motion to adjourn.
There a second?
Second,
Moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor of adjournment? Seeing no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good evening.